Welcome to episode 257 of AKAPAD's Audio Audacity Podcast. I am AKAPAD. I am Peter Anthony DeLuca. I am your boy. I am your host, and I am ready to go. We're still in our Terminator block. We're making our way through every single one of the Terminator movies. We're going to hit a couple roadblocks, and then we're going to get into a giant block of Star Wars, leading into Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, the end of the Skywalker saga. How are they going to wrap it up? I don't know. I haven't been that into a series wrapping up since Lost. And since Lost, it was since Avengers Endgame. Both were hugely disappointing. But we're talking Terminator, Salvation, Machinima, direct-to-video, web release, computer animated prequel or sequel or in-between thing between Terminator 2 or Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, and Terminator Salvation. This is the bridge. It's not so much of a bridge, but let's get into it. Let's discuss it right here, right now on AKAPAD's Audio Audacity Podcast. Everyone, I developed a little bit of the sniffles. Yesterday was so brutal at the 9 to 5, and I do a lot of things leading into the 9 to 5, and I needed to come back here and rest. And I usually reserve Monday nights for my Peter rest night. I couldn't do it Monday because I actually had to work out. I didn't work out this weekend. So I said, let me just do it on Tuesday. And then Tuesday became a concert night. I needed to sleep and recover because I could feel the sniffles and this clogginess. You hear it in my voice right now. I felt it coming on. And well, anyway, I ain't sleep much last night. I ain't sleep much leading into yesterday. So that's almost like 2 days now. But I'm rocking and rolling. I'm still drawing, working on the comic book every single day. It's going to be on Indiegogo. It's going to be #lit. And I'm still obsessed with the Terminator series. And the funny thing is, though, I was talking with a friend of mine, and he's a complete film snob to the point of he doesn't watch movies anymore. He just doesn't. He cannot take himself away from he can't get out of his own head to enjoy a movie, and he actually believes. Now sit down. I know you're sitting down. Most people sit down when they listen to me. Shout out to all my new listeners because the traffic's been spiking, and I thank you. But get this. He believes that there's nothing to take away from a Terminator movie. He'd rather watch something else. That's a direct quote, which is very, I'm very much sorry about that. I had to double check my some of my setup here. I didn't feel like my audio was coming in strong enough, but the overall point, it's it's a window. When I have these conversations with some of my friends, it's an absolute window, and it's a definition to why I do this podcast. Because I feel like there needs to be a perspective and almost like an admiration, almost like where I'm coming from. It needs to be documented for a lot of these movies coming out and how they're coming out and what's surrounding the movie. And then what the movie, what's happening within the movie itself. And so often I never have discussions with people to the meat of the movie, to actually what happens inside the movie. They have these ideas, and that's as far as the deconstruction. That's as far as they're willing to put themselves out there and tell you how they feel about the movie, and tell you what they see within the movie, and in some way, we get feeling mixed with quality, and quality and feeling have nothing to do with one another. And the interesting thing, though, is when it intersects, and when it intersects, it's usually only for the good. People don't understand it can happen for the bad and these other reasons, but that's never documented. When quality and feeling intersect, when we see some of these movies, it becomes something else. And I think even something like Avengers Endgame, there was a feeling about that movie before anyone saw it. And every single review, every single discussion, every single analysis of that movie when it came out was immediately corrupted because it kind of bled through social media, and it bled through YouTube. And I kind of feel like people today adopt the thinking and almost like the brain wave, like the brain pattern of some of these reviewers, and they themselves become these like Twitter personalities, but they're not on Twitter, they're in the real life, because like they're not good with social media, and they're trying to be divisive or insightful, and almost like be clickbaity themselves, but only to the people they know, because maybe they're searching for a level of acceptance they're not getting someplace else in the world. And I really feel like when people come in low ball and low energy, with like what they feel, and if they think something's good, or if they enjoyed something within TV, film, music, so on and so forth, that's where I think they're coming from, especially today, because the previous generation, the movies that were passable and were okay and middle of the road, Gremlins, RoboCop, Goonies, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, even Batman Returns, today wouldn't even last. They wouldn't, and people were way more tolerable and expressive about those types of movies that were high concept, great fun, but they had to be middle of the road, because they kind of go all in on the concept. And when you go all in on the concept, what suffers? Developing the characters, the drama, having a complete 3-act movie, having a good resolution, or maybe like a good middle. A lot of those movies do not have good middles, believe it or not. They have great beginnings and they have endings that kind of stick with you. Good middles are very, very tough to get, and that's William Friedkin talking. That's the guy who directed The Exorcist and The French Connection, 2 of the greatest movies ever made. Yeah, so we're talking Terminator, we're talking Machinima Series. I may have been calling it Mishima, whatever. I hate pronouncing that word. I really do. So this is a story, okay? It's pretty much billed as it's an in-between story between Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines, and Terminator Salvation. And I think it's effective in setting up the world of Terminator Salvation. Now, quick side note: these animated genre, usually sci-fi movie, like they're like they're not animated sequels. They're like animated side stories, but they accompany these movies. And we have this, and this got a like a home video release. It got because it's pretty much like an hour plus long. But what complements this? Like, what, this wasn't the first time this was done. Sorry, getting a little bit of a brain fart. That's what I'm getting. I'm trying to get to other examples of this. So Dark Fury was the Chronicles of Riddick, in between Chronicles of Riddick and Pitch Black. They had a direct-to-video, direct anime, directed by Peter Chung, the guy who did Aeon Flux. They got him. He did like a 30-45 minute. I don't remember that being of quality. We had the Animatrix between the Matrix and Matrix Reloaded, and it's a pretty sizable list. Like we've done this even with Halo. We've done it with I think there's another one called like Dante's Inferno. I forget what game that was connected to. Oh, Dead Space. We had this like in between, like anime that was between the 2 video games when that game caught fire. So this is it's a method to introduce the audience to like some of the ideas within the movie, so they get excited, and like they need to make it of value. So here we go. Like we have to have a story, we have to have a character, we have to have we can't spend too much money on it, because we know it's not going to make a ton of cash, but it needs to be of a certain quality, it needs to be valuable, so we need to tell a story that connects. And this is where we are now. I'll say this: you have to remove yourself from the time this was made. This is early mocap. This is early motion capture. This is early likeness. When it comes to CGI faces. So, like, what are we then? Like, what is this? Why do we watch it? Why do we care? Well, because it is a part of the Terminator, like, franchise. It's a part of the mythology and the story within Salvation. And Terminator Salvation gets so much credit at this point because it really tried to do something different. And it was right after the bombs go off. So the bombs go off, and we fast forward a little bit. John Connor is fully grown up, but they're in this very post-apocalyptic world, and now they're being hunted by these machines. Now we all know where these machines came from, but they're there. And Terminator Salvation also expanded on the idea of the machines, that they would have different form, different function. This series also does it. We have lots of drones. We have a lot of the hunter-killer. We see the T-800 in full action at the end of this, which is kind of cool. So what's the story? Well, Moon Bloodgood, that's the girl's name. She's a pilot. She's one of the girls that are in, she's with Marcus, St. Worthington. She's in Terminator Salvation. Her character and her voice are the focus of this. And she's essentially like John Connor. The way that they use John Connor in Salvation, they use her character the same way. And look, for you third wave feminists out there, you feminists, you progressives, you leftists, this is a female-driven event. Like establishing women deeper into the Terminator mythos. So again, the people who flipped out over Dark Fate, and I was one of them, and I had to remind myself of some of the history, and that's one of the things that unfolded is Terminator Dark Fate may not be as woke as I thought it was, because this is a full attempt to crank up the Moon Bloodgood character. Okay, she is tough. She's a pilot. She can do many things, and she's the one, story-wise, gets the signal to the human resistance. And the machines in Terminator Salvation use a signal that that's my phone. They do a gotcha with the humans, and the gotcha with the humans is essentially they make the humans think that they can be controlled through this frequency. So they let the humans have a couple breadcrumbs, and the humans go for like a full strike against the machines, and the machines set like a big ambush. That's one of the best revelations in any of the Terminator movies, by the way. And this is the origin and the discovery of that signal. Now, this really didn't pick up for me until episode 4, where you're embedded in the narrative. You're embedded in our female protagonist here. And there's a struggle, and we have a new male character. The entire time I was thinking he was John Connor. He's not John Connor. He's just a hacker that figured out that the machines speak to one another, which is something we would get. That story would eventually have to be told. And just watching this, look, it's an hour of your time. It's available on YouTube. It is well worth the time to put into this. Take an hour and watch this, then watch Terminator Salvation. Make it like a 3-hour opus. This story would have to have been told, and it's interesting that they did this, because the entire time I'm not thinking anyone's going to die, and except for Moon Bloodgold, which is why it's always an issue going backwards. We kind of saw this with Solo. I think some of the anticipation for Solo was at a low, because the anticipation couldn't be high, because we kind of knew that Solo is not really at risk. Han Solo is not going to be at, he's not going to die in this movie. Oh, the movie has Lando and Chewie. Well, they're not going to die either. So 3 of our main characters are not going to die. Any other character that dies isn't on screen long enough for us to fully care about. That's one of the reasons why Solo didn't hit on the narrative level. They had their backs up against the wall the entire time making Solo, and then it became a little bit woke. But anyway. And it destroyed the movie. I believe I'm not saying Terminator Dark Fate doesn't have woke aspects, but just the hint of it was enough to drive people away, and people don't like to be preached to. I think this level of female character, female introduction, female toughness is perfect, and it's just watching this and then having everything from Terminator Salvation still in my head made me more upset that they didn't stick with the original Terminator Salvation ending and didn't go with Terminator Salvation 2, because they had the world set up and they had the footwork and they did the right things. They did all the right things to get this franchise back on its feet. And we got an ending that was leaked to the internet. The internet's first casualty, second casualty, major casualty would be like Wolverine X-Men Origins. When that leaked, that completely destroyed any surprise factor that film had or any revelation. I think some of the revelations in Origins would have hit if they weren't leaked. I really do. But anyway, this is just fun. It's an hour. I like some of the machine action now. But keep in mind, we have to put, as I said before, we have to keep this in context. This is essentially video game cutscenes that were made and rendered into a movie. So we're not getting full animation. We're not getting a full exploration of what they can do with animation at the time. This is, I can kind of see it. Like they had things set up for the video game and they were like, let's just keep going and get this done too. And I think it worked. I really do think it worked. And originally, I thought this was all the video game cutscenes, because the first 2 episodes, like there's almost like gaps, or like the action just seems a little bit sudden and rushed, and the action's quite not there. These episodes get better as they march along, as any periodical, any serialized type entertainment should get better as it marches on. But this is worth watching. It's for free on YouTube. Go check it out. It's Terminator Machinima, or Terminator Salvation Machinima, and rock and roll. So here's our next 2 episodes. We are discussing the Sarah Connor Chronicles. I'm not going to be doing like a full analysis or discussion of what the arcs are, but I've seen enough of it to talk to you about it, which is important because this is like, we're going back to 2009, okay? And the one thing to consider is we had Salvation, we had the web series, and then we had the live action TV show. 2009 and 2010 really were the years of the Terminator. And to think about if the Sarah Connor Chronicles went further than 2 seasons and this movie got a sequel, we would have had 2 different threads of the Terminator saga going at the same time. And believe it or not, that's a template right now being used by Star Wars. So there you go. But look, everyone, Peter A. DeLuca, AKAPAD's Audio Audacity Podcast. This episode went on for way longer. I only wanted this to be like 10 minutes. I love talking to you, to all my new listeners. Thank you. Let's rock and roll. And find me on Twitter at AKAPAD. Can I say that? We can continue the discussion there. I'm sorry. I'm still clogged up. Until next time. I love you.